Hello everyone, welcome to the G4 Acclaim studio. Unfamiliar surroundings for us. We're not over StreamYard tonight. There'll be no buffering, there'll be none of that at all. It's going to be nice and smooth, because as you can see, the Bhoycie Bus is out on location today. So here we are joined by David Logue.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Jonathan, boys, you're here, mate.
Yeah, good to see you, Phil. Looking forward to this.
Yes, indeed. And of course, Regan Stevenson's here with us as well.
Thank you for having me, Phil. It's great to be here at the G4 Claim studio.
Yeah, no, I love how you're thanking me for having you, because the main man himself is actually here. He is off camera, though. He's camera shy today, but we've got something later on planned for that one. But don't worry, the four of us are going to do a wee show first and foremost, a recap of the week. It's a Sunday sesh, a Sunday Blether, whatever you wish to call it, because that's always the day we're recording it on. But obviously through the week, guys, Celtic, we've had some big news, some big stories now. Myself, Liam out in Canada, Mark certainly had to say on this one. Russell did a show last night by himself, but you guys haven't had any say on this, so I guess we need to start with the big story. And Mr. Lawwell is what's that coming over the hill? Is it Peter Lawwell? It is indeed. Here he comes. So yeah, on January the 1st, 2023, he will be taking up the position of non-executive chairman. It's dividing the Celtic support all over the place, over the Twitter sphere. They've all got a lot to say on it. So David Logue, I'm going to come to you first, mate. What's your feelings on it? How are you taking this news?
I don't know if the news is properly sunk in for me yet, because we've been talking on the bus for a while. It was said on the Thursday, the TNF, with yourself and Mark and Bhoycie. It was everything was kind of pointing in that direction, and it was just a case of, look, if he's coming back, just rip that band-aid or plaster off quickly, just get it over with. And then, funny enough, it happens the very next day, and it stung a lot more than I think we initially thought it would. It's, like I said, we kind of had a weird feeling this is going to happen, and then when the reality hits, it was a bit like, oh god, okay. I'm not got the strongest, I'm not anywhere near as strong a view as Mark does, but Mark's in a league of his own there when it comes to
the judge.
The judge, that's it. He holds court himself. However, I can't say I'm not over the moon. I almost feel numb about it. I don't really know how to process the whole thing, because the majority of the fans, I think, are in the same boat, that they're not happy that he's back. You've got a couple of a smaller portion of the support that are trying to see the positives. But when you weigh them both up, I kind of sway to the negative. I'm not great. It's a step backwards for me. It's not a step forward. We've been talking about, like, we're on a forward trajectory here. We're trying to push the club forward and move in a more positive direction. And to go back to that well and bringing back Lowell, it's just a bit like, okay, right. It almost feels a bit like a jobs for the boys for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, okay, you're not telling me there's nobody out there that we could have at least interviewed. Was there not any interview process there whatsoever, or was it just a case of, look, right, Peter, take a wee step back, you know, we've got the fans back on board, and then we'll strike when the iron's hot, and we'll get you back in, and hopefully the positives of what's happening in the club will outweigh and almost drown out the noise that you've came back. But I don't think it's going to end well with him coming back. I can see the people's arguments that, he's got great knowledge of the club, and he was successful in his job and what he did at the club, which is debatable, by the way.
Does he know the city though, David?
Well, that's it. Does he know the city? I think he knows the city well. Yeah, he knows certainly the city group well. We'll put it that way. I've still got my own thoughts and ideas on that. But to keep going on about Lowell, this whole you can bring lots of advice to people. Look, just because you can give advice to somebody doesn't necessarily mean it's good advice. You know what I mean? Like, and okay, there's this argument that he doesn't hold the same amount of power that he did previously. That's also debatable. This is a guy who has massive shares in the club. He's a huge personality at the club. Politics are everywhere in all aspects of jobs, especially in a boardroom. And you're not telling me that a decision's not been made without at least his word in somebody's ear. Look, all I'm going to say to you is, if you make that decision, I might not be able to support you in one of your future decisions because you've not taken this advice on board. And that can sway somebody's decision making in the board. Well, I need Lawwell's, but I need Peter's backing on something further down the line that I might consider more important than this little situation we've got on here. So I'm going to take Peter's advice here and, maybe not give Giakoumakis that extra $100,000 a week because Peter says I shouldn't, and I want to do something that was going to benefit me more. So like a guy with that much power and weight behind him, he's got influences whether he's technically allowed to or not. He can make decisions one way or another, and I don't think that's great for the club.
Yeah, it's as I say, it's very much divided people. But Jonathan, do you think it's just the stink of the Lawwell name that's causing this? Is it just that? If it was anybody else, it would be fine. But just it's because it's him and what happened, and what we try not to talk about in 2021. What happened? It's that's going to get him. Is there positives and you can see from this?
It's hard to really see very many positives looking at it. We're obviously moving into a new year, and it's normally a time when you say out with the old and in with the new, but this year it seems to be more of a case of out with the old and in with the older, and I don't think that's particularly great from a Celtic point of view, because we have to be looking forward as a club. Peter Lawwell did a good job for a long time there. I know towards the end it all soured a bit. I don't think many Celtic fans will be keen on having him back in the building. I certainly am not keen on that at all. I feel he cannot help but get himself involved where he doesn't need to, and I know he's in a non-executive chairman role, whatever that means. I've not really looked up the definition of this one quite as much as some others have, but if I'm looking at it, I cannot see him not wanting to get involved in things like transfer policy. And we know what happened the last time we had a big personality manager in the dugout. Peter Lawwell was a large reason as to why Brendan Rodgers ended up leaving when he did in the middle of a season. And perhaps if he had treated Brendan Rodgers slightly better, things might have been also different in the quest for 10 in a row. The fact he then goes and appoints Neil Lennon in a shower right after a Scottish Cup final, not reading the room at all. There's just all sorts of red flags with this. I think after he didn't get the 10 in a row, if he'd got the 10 in a row, I don't actually think he would have been involved in the club at all anymore. I think he would have quite happily ridden off into the sunset. This almost feels like a bit of an ego trip on his part, because he didn't get to 10 in a row. He didn't have that as part of his legacy, and now he's almost trying to redeem himself now by being a part of the club whilst it's having further success. But for me, he shouldn't be involved in this whatsoever.
No, definitely not. Now, Regan, Jonathan mentioned about transfers and the potential of him maybe interfering in it, of what we've seen in the past. Hopefully that's not the case, and this whole non-executive thing stays that way and he stays in the background. But there has been some transfers, and I know that your comrade on the Sunday Blether, the judge, Mark Kearney, he's had a strong say on it with the potential going out. So nothing's concrete yet, but obviously there's been a few hallmarks of Peter Lawwell. What do you make of the Giakoumakis and Juranovic stuff, and do you think there is something tied in, or is this just a random coincidence?
I think, to be honest, Phil, I don't think Peter Lawwell is actually ever I don't think he's actually ever said that he's left Celtic. I think he said it in the media, but I don't think he actually ever left Celtic Park. I think the 10 in a row thing was because people were throwing sharks at the Celtic Park, and they were throwing barriers at Celtic Park, and they thought, well, we need to say something here. And I think that was all because you remember, everybody in the Celtic support wanting to win and gone just before the cup final. That was I think it was September or maybe even October. So I think the fact that Celtic left it to them 18 points behind, I think that was just to paper over the cracks a little bit. But to look at it from this perspective, Phil, I think possibly you need to give credit where it's due. And if he has been behind the last 12 months, like I'm saying, they've put in some very good players. So
things have went well.
I suppose there's two perspectives.
Yeah, well, see, most fans would like to think that this non-executive role is, that is going to mean he's in the background, because Ian Banker is the current chairman. How many times has he interfered in transfers? The chairman doesn't usually do it, but it's just because we know Lawwell's track record and that name, and his son is what is his son just now officially? The director of football?
Scouting and recruitment, isn't it?
That's how it is, okay.
And I think the big thing as well, for you need to remember, is Michael Nicholson's only been in the job think it's 10 months. So Michael Nicholson is obviously going to go to Peter Lowell, who's been at Celtic since 1990s. He's obviously going to go and say, look, Peter, what do you think I should possibly do here? He's not going to go, right, I'm going to be my own man here. I think when it comes to everything regarding Celtic, I think Peter Lowell will be directly involved. I think the whole non-executive thing is just to make the fans think that he's not going to be involved as much, but I think he is.
We'll see, because when I was talking to Mark and Liam on Thursday night, I looked up the whole definition of a non-exec chairman just to see, because I saw people on Twitter saying, people need to learn what that means first before sure. So I was like, right, I'll have a wee look, and my sort of grasp of it is the CEO will report to the non-exec chairman, and then any ideas and proposals have to go through the non-exec chairman, but then he has to bring it to the board, and the board would then put it in play. If he was the actual out-and-out chairman, it's more a case of he can kind of just click his fingers and things can change. But that non-exec thing means that there's a few layers there before things can change. So
nothing can go for the club. Nothing. No decision can be made without it filtering through Peter Lawwell first. Essentially, that's
essentially what it sounds like. So non-exec sounds worse than actual chairman.
And then the board's got to agree to sign off on it, when we all know he's probably got the board already eating out of his hand anyway, so it's probably not going to be a big problem. That's like a non-existent hurdle.
Oh,
so
God.
I think you might have touched on it a minute ago there, Regan, but so there's people out there, and I suppose I could be one of them, that's never been fully convinced that he ever left. Like you said, he's never left Celtic Park anyway. So if that, like you see, there's two sides to the coin. If he's never left, and they've just managed to keep it hushed that he's still been there, he's still been doing some sort of role in the club, and things have been going positively, then is there as much to worry about as we think there is? Because if he has been there, then the argument is, well, if he's been there the whole time, and what's all these changes that we've seen at the club has been happening while he's been there in the background, and now they've just decided to make it public. Is that more comforting for us, or do you just think it's just a case of... I would
play devil's advocate there, because if you look at the transfer window, me and Russell and Mark have said it, especially in the past, during this transfer window during the summer, Celtic signed a free transfer in Moy, and they've signed Higgs Ivanovic for £1 million. They also got Jota money, which we all agreed was also put in place last summer. They've signed a client loan from Japan this January on a free transfer. They're also going to sign Alistair Johnson for like £4 million, but they're probably going to get £12 million for Juranovic. So I don't know if we're actually doing what we're saying. Like, if you said to Celtic, you'll get into Champions League and you're going to sign Moy as a free transfer to go into Champions League.
It did have that sort of hallmarks of a sort of Peter Lawwell thing, but of course with Ange Postecoglou now coming out as well and saying that he's in favour of the Lawwell appointment, and he was instrumental in bringing him to the club. But obviously the Moy connection with Ange Postecoglou, so you can kind of say, maybe the manager was more, he approved that one. But what do you make though of the whole Ange comments? Because again, it goes back to this whole Don Mackay stuff, because I remember the press conference where Don Mackay sat there with Postecoglou in front of the press, and he did the fan media one as well, and the way Don Mackay stared at him, like, this is a guy, I've been pursuing him for ages, and then you find out just 10 weeks later when he's gone, they kind of just erased Don Mackay from history, and it wasn't him. And then for Ange to say that the other day, that Peter Lawwell was instrumental in bringing me to the club. Not Don Mackay, David.
Don Mackay had never heard of Ange Postecoglou in his life. Never, no clue who he was. I don't buy that for 1 second. The guy that solely focuses on Scottish rugby, with no experience of football whatsoever. I mean, he couldn't hack it at our club for any more than 10 weeks. He never set one eye on Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah.
To try and make out and that was solely used to try and give him a bit of credibility in the sense that, look, this is our new CEO, and he's been tracking this guy that none of us had heard of before, but he's and do your own research there on how successful he has been in other clubs and how successfully he will be at our club, which has turned out to be true. But that was just a media. That was just a media campaign to try and get us on board with the new CEO. Like, look, the club's been put into it's now in the hands of somebody that knows what he's doing. That's all that was. And as soon as he's walked out the door and 10 weeks later, then the truth comes out that he had nothing to do with getting Ange Postecoglou in.
No,
absolutely none. So I actually do take what Ange is saying at face value when it comes to that Peter Lawwell was instrumental in bringing him to the club.
Yep.
Because it looks like it. And then when he's coming out and endorsing that Peter Lawwell was back, I can't remember what Liam had said on the reaction pod, but I think he felt that Ange was almost just saying what he was being told to say. I think we know Ange well. None of us know Ange personally, obviously, but I think we've learnt enough to know that Ange doesn't let people put words in his mouth. If he's not happy about the situation, he lets the board know. We've seen it with his wee slide digs about not being forceful enough.
Yep.
He's not going to let the board tell him, look, we need you to go out there and say that you're happy about this, because I don't believe that he would do it. I think he would just tell us, look, he's back, accept it. I think that's the kind of thing that Ange would come out with if he wasn't happy, personally. So I'll take what Ange is saying at face value, and if he believes it's a good decision, that makes me then go back to thinking, well, maybe he's been here the whole time, because if Ange is comfortable with it, he's been working with him for long enough to go, you aren't going to interfere with what I want to do for now. But we'll see. So I think Ange has been pretty transparent and pretty honest when he said that he's quite happy with it. So. Aye. But then it's that whole, well, if Ange is happy, then we should be happy. No, I still think we should be able to question the decisions whether Ange is happy.
See, the biggest thing for me, Phil, right? There's a statement on the club website that says Peter Lawwell was the outstanding candidate. now, how can Peter Lawwell be the outstanding candidate in 2022? Surely we need to widen our scope and say, right, well, there must be people out there that are in a good position that could... Celtic's got big attraction all over the world, and the one person that we think is outstanding candidate is Peter Lawwell. I mean, come on. The guy's been there for 1990. Yeah.
It's, Jonathan, it's just like what Mark said on Sunday Brunch, and the judge been having a good rant about stuff where he mentioned the Mark Lawwell appointment. It's like, wait a minute, you did your due diligence, you did a process, and you landed on Mark Lawwell. Same with this chairman position. It's like, if you did any due diligence, if there was a process, as they're leading us to believe, and you landed on Peter Lawwell, that's a bit coincidental, isn't it?
You have to wonder who else was on the shortlist. He was at Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. It's a bit crazy to think that that's where we've ended up. If it's a case that Lowell is the best candidate, then I don't want to know what list they were actually looking at, to be perfectly honest with you. There's no question about it. For me, that was something they've always had in the pipeline to bring him back in. I think Ian Bankia's interest is minimal when it comes to the footballing side. It was always likely he would end up leaving fairly soon. I think Lowell's always been in amongst the background. I don't think he ever completely left. I'd agree with what Regan was saying earlier. I think he's still been involved in the football club, and I think he was probably instrumental in bringing Ange Postecoglou there with his City group connections as well. So I think it's an interesting one when you look at what Ange is saying, that he's also saying that he's happy Lowell's back. I wonder if that's because Lowell's maybe been taking a step back, because he's not really had an official role, at least amongst the fans anyway, for the past 12 months, as to whether or not Ange Postecoglou's really had a lot of close dealings with Peter Lawwell. And I think from a fan's point of view, the concern is with him now getting this job, is that going to change now, and is Peter Lawwell going to start getting his ego in the way like he has done previously? And I think there's a very good chance that could happen. I think you could argue he's possibly been unfortunate, but around the same time he gets appointed, Giakoumakis is being linked with a move away over wages and contract disputes. And, if you're joining two and two together, then it does look as if that is something that Peter Lawwell could have been involved with, because he's got previous for messing players around on contracts or not getting transfers done that should really have been done. So I think, when you're looking at it from that point of view, the next few months are going to be very, very interesting. This January transfer window's just taken a lot more interest for me. Because I put it back to you guys, are we expecting that with Peter Lawwell now in the building, Celtic might be in a bit more of a position where they might look to sell one or two more of their key assets?
It goes back to that Ange comment, doesn't it, at the AGM? Prepare yourself for it. But Regan, we'll try and we'll move away from Lawwell as best we can for the time being, because this is going to rumble on for a while until he's in position. But let's go and look at some of the positives. And there is two players that have officially signed, and obviously the most recent one is has been playing out in the World Cup. Alistair Johnson, right back. Now, before I come to you, Regan, just quickly, David, did you post something through the week of a team sheet that showed the worst rated 11 at the World Cup, and Alistair Johnson was the right back?
I got that.
Oh, man, where did that come from, though?
Oh, I know. It was just one of those. I just thought it was quite funny, to be honest. That's why I put it in the group chat.
Was it something like Lad Bible or something posted?
I can tell you the source. It was the Mail Online Sport had posted. Full of credibility. Yeah. I mean, have Ronaldo up top there, so I mean, even at the rate.
Did Piers Morgan write it?
If they're giving Ronaldo at the top, for the worst. This is for the worst.
Oh, worst.
This is the worst 11, not the best 11. So we've just signed the worst right back at the World Cup, according to the Mail Online Sport. But then they've got Ronaldo up top, and I'd tell you what, I'd still take a 39-year-old Ronaldo up top at Celtic any day of the week. So I'll take that with a pinch of salt. But it just cracked me up when I saw that. And I thought I'll share that with the guys.
I wouldn't say he was the worst performing right back at the tournament. I thought Canada were pretty good. Obviously, in the end, it's a bit of naivety's let them down. They've been really good going forward, but maybe a few just.
But like Celtic, were they not, Phil? They were kind of similar to Celtic in the Champions League.
That's right. People said that.
If they just took their chances, then they would have beaten.
Same but different, you could say.
Aye, same but different. A wee bit of maple syrup on that one.
But Regan, are you happy with that bit of business so far? Are you quite excited to see Alistair Johnson in the Celtic shirt?
Yeah, I think it's good that he's 24 as well, so he's got a lot of development. I did like to see, Phil, that a former Celtic player has persuaded him to join. Victor Wanyama.
Big Victor,
Big Vic.
So I think that's a positive as well, because I think he said his phone's blown up since Celtic signed him, and I think he's going to be a very good player. I don't think Ange would have spent next to £5 million on a player that he wouldn't want to see in the team, and I think it'll be a case of Tony Ralston will battle it out with Alistair Johnson, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, let's ask a local Tony Ralston lookalike himself. He'll be battling it out with Alistair Johnson there, Tony.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I think Ralston will do just fine with this boy coming in.
Notice we didn't see Juranovic battling out with Alistair Johnson as well. Notice that one, yes.
I think Juranovic is away, to be fair. So you're not spending. Is that right? Is it $5 million around?
Yeah, it's around $5 million.
You're not spending $5 million on a right back to be your third choice right back. So Juranovic looks like he's away. This Atletico Madrid, Barcelona. Somehow he'll manage to even get into the Brazil side at this rate. He's off. He's definitely away. I think West Ham have been linked with him too now, and that's definitely a more realistic. I could understand. I could see him going there. When you've got David Moyes at the helm at West Ham, he's going to be keeping an eye on Celtic players, and it just like a mid-table English club, even lower table at the minute. He's definitely going to. He'd probably get into that. If they're saying they need to sell somebody first to try and get any sort of bids in for Juranovic, but I think we can strap in there. He'll be heading off. But I think Ralston will be given the opportunity to still show that the shirt's his.
Yep.
I think just before the World Cup he was getting a wee bit more game time. Maybe that was just to almost let us know, look, get used to seeing Ralston in the starting lineup again, and to show that he's more than capable of being a starting right back. On the other side of the coin though, you're not spending $5 million on a right back not to be slotting into that. Yeah, so it's really down to Ralston to keep him on the bench, but it's inevitable. I think we'll be seeing Alistair Johnson probably starting for Celtic.
Yep.
It's refreshing to see two actual right backs that are going to be there that are now going to be fighting again for the jersey, because for me Juranovic is checked out for a wee while. I just don't really feel his performances have been anywhere near the level they were the year before, and I'm looking forward to getting this boy in Johnson. I think it'll be good to see how him and Ralston fare. Ralston, again, he's not really had much of a chance this year, which I think has been really unfair given the fact that Juranovic's performances for me haven't been, as I say, as high as they were last year, and even last season Ralston was getting quite a fair number of games. It was fairly split 50-50. I mean, Juranovic probably shaded it in terms of appearances, but Ralston was still very much in amongst the picture, whereas this year he's been very limited in terms of starts. He's certainly not started any major games for Celtic this season, and I think this could be his shot in the arm now. If Juranovic is on his way out, he's got another opportunity now to go and battle once again to try and become the number one right back. Going to be very difficult, of course. I think Johnson looked quite good at the World Cup.
He played a back three as well, by the looks of it.
I was going to say, I think he's played right centre back for Canada, Johnson. Okay. So it does look as if he could even slot in one. You could end up with both of them playing possibly in some games. But I think, for me, he looks like the kind of player we're going to like as a fullback. He likes to go and take on his man. He's committed. He's got all those sort of attributes. He sounds like he'll be quite similar to Ralston to me in terms of how he'll actually go about his business at right back.
Strong in the tackle as well.
Strong in the tackle, yeah. He seems to quite like a tackle, quite like the physical side of things. So I think for us, I think it's a good upgrade, given for me the fact that Juranovic is checked out.
Aye, definitely, and obviously we've got Kobayashi coming in as well. Now, one thing I'll just quickly bring up as well and move on to, because people might be wondering, why are we even doing a show? The G4 claims, what's the occasion? Well, in case you were wondering, of course, it is a 1 year anniversary of the Bhoycie Bus. Well, it was November, we've just passed it, but this is the reason why we're doing this one. So obviously, guys, we're all part of the team, and say Russell's not even on the camera, so he's entrusted us to just do this ourselves. But Regan, what's been your favourite sort of moment, memory so far on the bus? Any favourite like standout moments, episodes, funny escapades that have happened? Because there's certainly been a few moments along the way.
I would say that the game last year when Celtic beat Rangers to essentially win the league, when they went 7 points clear, I think that was a big one for the bus as well, because we got a record number of views as well on that one, Phil, as well. So that was great for the bus as well. But yeah, there's been I'm trying to think of other ones as well.
That was the episode that we started with it chatting at the start. Was he many podcast doing that?
Never felt more ridiculous in your life. You just stand in front of your camera and just giving it this.
I know. Jeez. There was 5 or 6 of us on the screen at that point as well. I think that was one a really busy bus. That was the first time I think we'd tried that. We were like loads of people on the screen at the one time. Because I think the cap had been 3 or 4 at that point. I think we went for 6 that day. It was mental, that one. But it's been a hell of a ride so far. So I've first appeared on the show in February in 2022, because after Bodo, I was the first person that came on talking about a defeat, because Russell had a good streak up to that point. Every result had been positive, and then I had to come on and talk about the Bodo Glint game. I was like, typical me. I would get a bad game to talk about, but that's been a hell of a ride so far. And doing the Friday night Bustalgia, keeping people going for 3 hours on a Friday night, that's been some laugh so far.
Yeah,
it is a marathon. It is. What about yourself, David? Any sort of favourite moments in that you've had on the bus? Any episodes or escapades that have stood out?
It's one of those ones where when you put on the spot, it's difficult to think, because we've had so many good moments, like obviously live on the show. We've had some really funny moments backstage when the shows are finished. We find ourselves still on chatting a few drinks later, and you're still at 1 a.m. just having a laugh. Like without getting into too much, like it's we have to give credit where credit's due. Like Bhoycie's done an incredible job. Like I didn't know any of you guys a year ago. Nobody, yep. Right? And I remember I might have been the second or third guy that came on and did the Friday show, the Double Doon show, and thought that was quite good. I quite enjoyed that. Nice wee, something I'll not probably do again, but I enjoyed it. And then I remember then I heard you after the Bodo Glint game, and I messaged Bhoycie right away, and I was like, you need to get him on again. He's absolutely class. I was like, I'd love to go on the show him if we do another one. If you ever want me back on, like, we'll do one together. And then Regan, you came on, you did an unbelievable job. And then Jono, you started doing the Monday Club, and I was like, brilliant, I've got a podcast I can enjoy to listen to again. And then next thing you know, we've got this team, and and it's just been brilliant. We're in this group chat, and we can have a laugh, we debate on the live shows just as much as in the WhatsApp group. We've had so many funny moments. We've met up, had drinks. It's just mad to think this has just come from a year later of just this guy who gets slagged off on about his hair all the time, which I do, by the way. So when you're slagging Bhoycie off, you're slagging me off too, by the way. Just keep that in mind. And now we're in a studio, sitting across each other, just having a laugh. It's mad. It's mad to think. So it's credit where it's going. Like, well done to Bhoycie for.
Yep.
And they've hit the 3,000 subscriber mark. Hopefully, then it's continuing to grow. Like, just I applaud them. It's just been brilliant, and I just appreciate being on it. I took a wee step back for a while just because
Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury, you got a bunch of dosses, Dosses. gap teeth, all that nonsense he was saying last night. Because I just needed to take a wee break just because things were getting on top of me with work, and then I was like, 5 weeks later, I'm like, I need to get back on, I'm missing it. And then you were like, do you fancy just coming on and just doing I think it was the Bustalgia one, and I came on and did that, and I was like, I've got the bug back.
Good stuff.
So no, I'm glad to be back, and like I said, I'm just buzzing that to do this with you. It's great.
So, Jonathan, now you've got to say something positive about your brother. I know he's beating you 6-2 just now in the old Sutton Death
Thank
at
you,
the moment.
Phil.
Sorry,
Thank you.
but yeah, now it's your turn to say something positive about him.
Don't know, you've just kind of taken any real incentive for me to say anything positive about him after that, to be honest. It's funny you should mention the quiz, because I remember back right when this was getting set up, we'd been at Celtic Aberdeen end of November last year. I think Callum McGregor scored. That was the one where the ball got hit off
off his backside.
Yeah, off his backside. Yeah, me and my brother and a few others were at that game, and that was when he was putting together the idea of doing the podcast. And he put this crazy idea to me of this double down quiz. And I am so thankful for all of the viewers that don't understand how that worked, because we must have spent about 3 hours in the pub, and I was asking him, and I don't think if I can get a single thing out of this. I was like, double down, what's this? Flip it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, and by the way, everyone will have different points. I'm like, you've lost me. I'm completely lost. Like, I'll just get you on to do the first one. I'll be fine. Like, brilliant, Russell. But no, he's done a really good job with it. He's brought everyone together. I knew he would. He's always one of those ones. Once he's got something in his eye and he wants to do something, he tends to succeed annoyingly. I never get much of an opportunity to bash him with a stick for failing up very much. But yeah, the last 12 months have been incredible, just to see how much it's grown, just from being very small. He did the first ones himself, just in his bedroom, and now he's still doing it in his bedroom. he's at least got a few more people there for company, and obviously
in his bedroom.
In his bedroom and outside of him as well.
Yeah, he's doing it for all the wrong reasons. That's what he's doing it for.
But so far up to now, it's over 3,000 subscribers. On that note, that reminds me, all that good stuff to the people in the camera. If obviously you like the content that we put out, then obviously hit that subscribe button. See, over 3,000 people have done it so far, so it must be doing something right. Obviously, we're not live in this episode, so there's not a comment section to get involved in, but don't worry, there's a little bit below the video. You can leave comments in there. Obviously, a like is massively, massively appreciated, because it helps with the old algorithm. And of course, if you wish to share it on any social media, that would be absolutely fantastic, even though Twitter is probably about to go down the pan anyway, because it's getting run into the ground by old Elon. But yeah, while it's still there, utilise it, spread the word of the bus. But yeah, guys, we'll probably wrap it up there, because we've covered the sort of hot topics of the week for Celtic. It's been great fun. It's been surreal as well, with no buffering, no freezing of the screen or any of that. That's been phenomenal. So yeah, it's been a good show, guys. You enjoyed yourself?
Oh mate,
great,
there's only one way to end it though, Phil.
Massive thank you. Before we go, just quickly, G4 Claims obviously for giving us access to the studio. It has been phenomenal, pretty surreal as well. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there, and you can take your wee song there if you wish.